Welcome to another episode of Pilot Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. My name is Zach. We talk all things general aviation, especially for anyone who is currently a flight student, a CFI, or even an airline pilot. And we have guests of all three of those sorts of pilots all the time on this podcast. And if you're listening, I hope that you enjoy this conversation we're about to have with Matthew, who's one of our flight students. We'll be talking about flight training, maybe even a little bit about the transition into flight training, and about what you enjoy about flying the most. Matthew, would you mind introducing yourself for our audience, please?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Matthew Freeman. I've been in the program since September of 2025. So we're 2026 right now. I kind of found out about aviation in the middle of last summer, and just kind of decided to take the leap and found thrust, and seemed like a pretty good flight school, and I'm definitely enjoying it so far.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Then we're gonna to know a little bit about you, and then a little bit about how your flight training is going, so people could understand maybe what to expect from some sort of similar Part 141 program. That's the idea, to give a little insight. I'd like to ask, what did you do before thrust, before
Sure.
you joined this flight school?
Yeah, so I graduated. I'm a little bit on the older side, I think. Graduated high school 2016.
Okay.
Went to a school in Florida called Full Sail University for my cloud technology bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So I worked in IT actually for close to 7 years.
Okay.
And then just waking up not really enjoying what I was doing.
Mhm.
I feel like that's a lot of people that want to take on flight school and stuff like that. So worked my way up from a help desk technician to all the way up to IT manager, making pretty good money.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Money doesn't equal happiness. So
Correct. Yeah.
that's what I was doing before this.
Wow.
Was luckily, since the money was pretty good, I was able to save up a good amount before taking the leap to go do this. But man, that's what I was doing before this.
Yeah. You say you're like maybe a little on the older side. I feel like I talked to a lot of people who are in the age range of where they're like, this is their second career. It's usually around that time that they're like, I'm gonna actually make a change. I graduated in 2013, so
Fair. Okay.
that's interesting to hear though. Did you always plan on going into IT when you were in high school?
Yeah. Yeah. So in high school, I did like theater tech, bunch of technology stuff. Just always understood computers,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I think my instrument rating was so easy, which
Okay.
was pretty nice.
Because
So,
how do you draw the connection?
it's just computers are all the same to
Yeah.
me. Everything they're linear.
Yeah.
So one thing works one way, and typically all technology works the same if you understand how it works. So
Right. That's cool. I can imagine what you're saying.
right.
At what point did you ever get exposed enough to aviation to even start considering it?
Yeah, so I didn't actually start considering it, like I said, until about last summer.
Mm-hmm.
I started playing hockey about a year and a half ago,
Okay.
and we have such a cool hockey community with my teams and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I know through hockey, I have met 4 pilots, and they kind of talked about their work, what they were doing,
Okay.
the time off that they would have, how often they would work, where they would go, because I've always loved traveling.
Right.
So that's kind of what sparked my interest, and then looking into it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty easy, especially with because I watched a lot of airline guys, how they talk on the radio, stuff like that, and
Right.
right off the bat, I was always really good on the radio, and then it was
Okay.
the flying aspect, which kind of took a little bit of a learning curve.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean that's what kind of sparked it, and I came here without even doing a discovery flight.
Okay.
It's-
Did it ever cross your mind before you met these people, or did you as a kid, did you have an interest or anything like that?
I mean, not anything crazy. Maybe for Christmas, I might get one of those toy helicopters, and yeah, they're fun to fly, and oh yeah, that's great. But then in 2 weeks, they're done. They're
Yeah.
lost and whatever. I don't think it was something that was ever really offered to me. Like, hey, would you ever want to be a pilot? Until I happened to meet those guys, and I was like, man, this looks like it might be a lot of fun. Let's look into this.
I do like talking to people who kind of made a decision later in their life. One that sometimes I really like the story about how, oh, I always wanted to and I finally did. But I think it's just as interesting to know about how someone can discover something later and then decide to go with it, because you would almost expect there to be a longer process to get yourself to do it. I guess what I want to know is, what was it like when you finally decided that I'm gonna make a change? Was there something that kind of pushed you? Did you? I'm just curious about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a big planner, which I think is why I also make a good pilot. But I don't like to do anything before. I have a set plan in place. So, like I said, I was kind of researching last summer, then found thrust, and then found out, how much it would cost and all these things, how much money I might need for, I estimated like 6 months to a year of living. And then
Right.
obviously there's the loan aspect to pay for most of it. So there was kind of that plan in general. And then I kind of had a number that I needed to meet to feel safe to make that leap. And was kind of nervous, but I have a pretty good support system at home. Luckily, I'm living with my girlfriend right now. Hopefully, future fiance here soon.
Okay. That's awesome.
Which is nice. So she helps me out on my hard days with like making lunch and laundry, which I never want to do because I'm always so tired and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then what helped me make the decision, actually, I went to lunch with a hockey buddy of mine who was just talking to me, and he was like, "Well, why wouldn't you do this? All these things." And I was like, just money. I have a lifestyle that I've created that is going to be, I don't like change very much and all these things. And he was like, "Dude, it's just money. Like you might have 5 years of kind of not great money, but being a pilot, the pay is so great in the long run." So
Yeah.
that's kind of what helped me take that leap. Is basically my buddy at lunch verbatim, "Dude, it's just money. Do it."
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, you kind of have to take that back to your girlfriend a little bit.
A little bit.
Maybe you don't, but if are you living together?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's what it sounded like. So in that scenario, I imagine you had a conversation with her.
Oh yeah.
And was there something to navigate there at all?
Yeah, I mean, communication is key in all relationships. So, talking to her about, hey, I'm leaving my 9 to 5 and I don't know what my hours are going to be like. And like in instrument and commercials, a lot of night flying. So I'm not going to be home at night and all these things. So she's been really flexible and really gracious, which I definitely appreciate. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's always nice coming home to her and our 3 dogs.
Yeah, exactly. And then, okay, cool, perfect. So you had that conversation with her, and you had that conversation with your buddy who's already flying, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and see about this. And so you Google or what? You look into flight schools. How'd you find out about flight?
So conveniently, actually, my girlfriend's dad is a pilot for Southwest. He just got promoted to captain, which is pretty awesome. And he kind of talked to me a little bit about what a process might look like as far as maybe getting to a Southwest cadet or something along those lines. And I found out pretty quickly that getting into cadet programs is pretty difficult.
Okay.
So decided to not really go that route just because they can be such a toss-up for the most part, especially some are different than others, all those things. Then looking into flight schools, I know I mean, the easiest one to find because they advertise so well as ATP. And I've heard a lot of mixed things about that. And I have another buddy who went to ATP and he was like, they got me through, but they didn't make it easy. So I kind of was looking for good structure along the lines of a relatively good community.
Right.
Because I'm a big study person. If I say something to someone or I hear someone say it, I remember it. I'm not necessarily like a type a note and then repeat it. That's not how I learned.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm on the older side. So, so I found thrust. Found out that I could come to a thrust day. Just came some random 15th of the month, whatever it was.
That's awesome. Okay.
And saw it and really liked it. And just sat down, had my Chick-fil-A lunch, and got to talk to a bunch of people about what they were doing, how they were doing it, how much it cost them, because that's what everyone wants to talk about.
Right.
And I really enjoyed my first time here. So
that's awesome. I'm glad that Thrust Day was a way to kind of like see what things are like. We try to invite people so they can do that. Exactly what you're talking about.
It's a fun day.
I'm very much an in-person kind of person too. I don't do well with like a solo studying. I never really have, but if I can talk about it with someone, I mean, I'll retain it much more. I'm that way. That's why I do the podcast.
Fair.
Everything I've learned so far is through this podcast, it feels like. So how did you find out about Thrust Day though?
Well, so I found Thrust, kind of sent an email to kind of put out a feeler and be like, hey, what does this cost? What is it? What's your program? What do I need? Because I knew nothing coming in. I didn't even know what kind of medical I needed. I didn't even know. I knew nothing.
Okay.
So I just kind of reached out and wanted to find out anything. And then I think one of the admissions team was just like, yeah, I mean, I can answer some questions. And obviously she wasn't a pilot, so she didn't know everything. So she was like, just come to Thrust Day in a week and a half and talk to people and figure it all out. So I think I talked to like 5 or 6 students that were here at the time who aren't now, which is great.
Yeah.
They're graduating now.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I got most of my questions answered from some students there, and
Right.
And some of and then obviously Irma, she answered most of my stuff too. So
Cool. Cool. And then after that, you just kind of went for it. Okay.
it's true.
That's
Started the next month.
yeah. It feels kind of brave to
Yeah.
have like just made a big choice like that, and I think a lot of people find themselves hesitant and not wrongfully so.
Yeah. The unknown
So
is scary.
yeah, exactly. And so I guess I'll ask this before I start to ask before we move into some of your training and how that's gone. Uh, what was some of the most difficult part of you finally making the decision to start flight training? Yeah. Was there a part of it that kind of held you back a bit more?
Yeah, I would probably say the unknown of income. So I feel like most people went to Sally Mae, took out a loan. I luckily had a job before this where I was making a good amount, so I didn't necessarily have to take out as much as I thought to live off of.
Mm-hmm.
But some people do, take out the stipend and you get the monthly paycheck out of your loan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was hesitant because of that change aspect.
Right.
So I've been working a 9 to 5 for 7 years, and it's like wake up, work, kind of, enjoy your job a little bit, and sign out maybe a little early. But it's like it was exciting and nervous because the unemployment side of not having to wake up and report to someone is awesome,
Yeah.
but you still have your own responsibility that you have to then manage yourself because no one's going to hold your hand through the program.
Right.
So that, and then getting back into schooling was also a drastic change for me too, because I was not the best student in high school or even college. Like in
Right.
college, like I said, I went to Florida, and that was an accelerated program as well for my cloud technology,
Okay.
but it was just different. So
Yeah.
different entirely. But um, yeah, I mean, just the change of just any change. People are
Yeah.
afraid of change.
Yeah, and then going back into school and everything like that, I can imagine. Uh, I like to ask that because I'm wondering how those concerns kind of played out for you after you made the decision. Do you feel like it was tough adapting to the new schedule, tough adapting to being a student again?
A little bit. Definitely hold myself accountable at home, which is why I feel the need to come up here to the hangar and study whenever, and then study with just small study groups and stuff like that, which is
Right,
great because the people are awesome.
right,
But yeah, adapting to being a student again and waking up on my own schedule, not waking up and worrying about being in trouble for my boss was a bit of a change.
yeah,
And then yeah, I mean, and the money aspect as well. I'm definitely watching more pennies now.
yeah, right. That makes
So
sense. I gotcha. Okay, and I'll ask probably more about that later.
sure.
But I'm curious, what rating you told me earlier, but what rating are you in now?
Sure. So I just finished my CFI,
Okay,
and I started here in private with 0 hours.
okay.
So private, instrument, commercial, CFI.
Moving along decently. I
Yeah,
think that's what it sounds like to
I think
me.
so.
I think for something as big as what you're doing, it's pretty quick, anyways. Regardless.
Yeah, the
So,
thrust program is pretty good as far as streamline and being organized
mhm,
and keeping you accountable as well.
that's
So
good. I would need those things. I'm not sort of like I said, doing it by myself. I'd need a little bit of structure. It'd be
I
kind of
agree.
tough.
Yeah,
Uh, although I like the freedom, but to your point, I need that structure. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like jumping into private pilot training when you have no real experience in aviation, let alone any understanding?
sure. Yeah, I had none. So I went in. The first thing that they tell you to do when you get here is to pass your private written.
Hmm.
And there's an app called Sporties that they tell you to get, and it's just what you practice on and stuff like that. And I absolutely knew nothing, so it was like jumping in the deep end, and it was hard. I didn't realize how hard it would be. I guess so obviously it was going to be difficult, but yeah, just like studying those questions and understanding all of that stuff,
Yeah,
and then learning about a plane and like how it works because like for your private they ask you all of these systems questions and all these things,
yeah,
and I understood kind of how like cars work and stuff like that
right.
beforehand, but I mean now
They
I
changed the terminology,
yeah, they
and
do,
the
and
physics are completely
yeah,
different.
we're flying through the air, so you got to understand how your stuff works, but
Yeah,
I didn't quite realize how much. I mean, I knew it was gonna be a lot of work, but I didn't realize how much work it
even
would be.
then, yeah.
Exactly, and it's only compounded. So
Hmm.
I definitely didn't really take it seriously in the very beginning. So my private took me a little bit longer.
Hmm.
Um, but you don't know what you don't know. So
Right.
looking back, I'm kind of glad that 'cause I definitely failed in the beginning in private. I
Yeah.
failed every ground stage check just because I wasn't really studying because I wasn't really a good student.
Yeah.
But those failures have definitely helped me in the past, or now, anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's one of those things where you're like, had to kick it into gear a little bit, right?
Right.
But can you tell me the difference between what it looks like kicking it into gear versus before? Because it's not like you weren't showing up. It's not like you weren't showing up to grounds. It's not like you weren't present, probably, unless you weren't. But
Sure.
I'm curious about what the difference is in your behavior versus like taking it more serious versus not.
Sure. So before becoming a pilot, taking it more serious is like locking in for like, an hour a day, 2 hours a day, and then
Okay.
like taking it easy at night, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But here it's a change in lifestyle, and that now it's maybe study 1 hour, take a break an hour, study an hour, take a break an hour, and that's all day. And then you still have to go to bed at a reasonable time so you can wake up the next day and fly a plane and be cognizant
Yeah.
to do that safely.
Yeah.
So it's I'd say it's drastically different as far as locking in now versus locking in a year and a half ago for whatever I might have wanted to do.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear distinction. I think that I've heard that from a lot of the guests on the podcast that um, you get in and you know that it's gonna be tough. You're doing something new, but, like you clarified it really well. It's you've got to lock in on a different level,
Yeah.
and so that makes sense to me. Can you tell me about when you first take off in a plane and land a plane by yourself?
Yeah, well, so I'll tell you my first time, because again, I didn't do a discovery flight before coming here. I had never been in a small plane before
Okay.
signing that check and starting here, which is insane, which is absolutely crazy. Do a discovery flight.
Yeah.
But I don't regret it at all. I remember my first flight with my instructor in private, because the first, you start out doing sims and stuff like that, and the sims are
Mhm.
cool because they're full motion.
Yeah.
But no, I remember my first flight, I let out like an excited whoop, and my instructor was like, "Yeah, dude, you're flying."
Yeah.
And then I actually suffered from motion sickness for my first 3 flights
Okay.
because I didn't even realize that would be a thing. Now, granted, they were like the bumpiest days of the year,
Okay.
but
But at the
uh,
time, you don't know that. I mean, is it going? Are you kind of worried in your head at this moment?
I didn't even think about it until like 2 days before my first flight, and I was like nervous. I
Yeah.
didn't realize how nervous I would be. So my first few flights and first few hours were just like training my body,
Yeah.
like because you can't focus if you're worried on not being sick and stuff like that.
Right.
And then they answer your other question about flying by myself for the first time. That was a lot of fun. Um, just a lot of fun in general. Like looking back is just like just surreal about how exciting it was, and heart's pumping. You're doing laps in the pattern, and then you're doing it cross country, and just like talking to yourself, trying to not really calm yourself down, but like kind of stay cognizant of what you're doing, and
Hmm.
like your instructor's ghost is still sitting in the seat next to you. So
Yeah. Right.
um,
That's what it's like, right? You're like, oh, okay, they would say this right now.
they would say this right now. Okay, I'm getting too complacent. What should I be doing right now?
Uh-huh.
Staying ahead of the plane. It's all on you. So
Yeah.
but it's fun.
Hey, that's only about 2 weeks into your training, right? 3, 4, maybe.
Roughly, yeah. For me, it was a little bit longer because I struggled to land. I had some negative transfer as far as little itty bitty drones landing versus a big plane.
Yeah.
So it was just bad habit close towards the ground, which obviously I had to work out. So
Yeah.
my instructor was patient with me, which was nice, and he was pretty great.
Right. And then for the motion sickness, did that just not just stop happening?
Yeah, just I mean, I was flying 6 days a week for in the middle of my private 4 hours a day. So it just
Okay.
kind of beat it down and it went away. But I mean, it comes back every once in a while. If I take too long off, and like for CFI, we don't fly for 2.5 weeks,
Right.
and you have a backseat partner, so you're flying behind someone, and so
Yeah.
it's a longer block, and being in the back seat, not being in controls, it kind of flared up a little bit,
Yeah.
especially on these bumpier summer days in Texas.
Right.
So it's just something to kind of always stay cognizant of in these hot days.
Okay, that
So
makes sense. I was just curious because I think some people worry about that. They're like, what if I'm too nauseous or motion sick?
yeah, I mean,
And
I have little ginger chews I take whenever I might be worried about it, and they don't taste too bad, and they help.
okay, cool.
So
And you're probably one of the only people I've talked to that still kind of says they still deal with it sometimes.
yeah, it's
Uh,
everyone. Yeah, it's rare now, I will say, but
yeah.
it does go away.
Okay, cool, cool. I always like to bring that up, how quickly you get to flying, especially by yourself. I mean, going from, I remember the first time I went up in one of the prop planes, right? I had only been in a jet, a
Right.
commercial jet before, and I thought it was pretty cool. But it's a different experience when you get to take control of the plane, even rather than just riding in it. That's where it hooks you even more.
Yeah.
So you made the decision before you got to experience that. But I'm wondering if there was a point during your flying or your training where you kind of second guessed whether or not you should have done this, and if there was also a point where you're like you kind of cleared that up for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I kind of was thinking that towards the tail end of private, just because all my classmates had kind of been or like probably like half my classmates had been finishing their rating, because I think the normal amount's like 60-ish hours, something like that.
It's around the average, yeah.
Yeah. I finished mine with 98,
Mm-hmm.
just because, like I kind of said, I struggled to land for a little bit, so I had those longer days with my instructor,
Right.
and um, and like I mentioned, I was failing all those ground tests
Yeah.
because I wasn't really studying. Like, I was enjoying flying so much. I was like, yeah, the ground will come eventually, but let me keep flying.
Yeah.
And then got to the point where I couldn't fly because I wasn't passing the ground. And I was like, okay, this is not fun now. So
Yeah.
had to lock in a little bit on that aspect, but towards the tail end of private with all of that, I was like, man, what have I done? It's like took out this huge loan, and it's like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And then kind of had to lock in, and um, since then, yeah, I haven't really thought that.
I'm wondering because uh, a lot of pressure starts to arise not only through all the way through private as you come to understand what you've signed up for, but as you approach your EOC and you're like, this is a lot of pressure. This is like my first final exam. This is like my first big checkpoint, my first milestone,
Hmm.
and you're like, I have to pass this. I'm sure it feels a little bit like that, and I'm wondering if what that was like and how much that played into what you just said.
Sure. Definitely the first EOC, I think both me and my instructor were worried because, like I said, I had failed every ground stage check that I had.
Uh-huh.
So
You have to pass them to move on, though,
you
right? So
do have to pass them
you
and move
fail at
on.
one time and then you pass it the next time.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious if that's how that worked, but
Yeah. So fail, retrain, and then retest, and then pass. But except for stage three, if you fail that one twice, the third time's a full redo. So
okay,
I failed stage three times and passed the fourth. So
okay.
it was, yeah,
So
that's,
you had to really drill it in.
yep, really
Yeah.
did. And then
So that having that experience so far, you're taking that with you into like,
exactly.
okay, now I have to do the big one.
Now, I will say I then have more ground training than everyone else because I now know the questions that are going to get asked, and kind of the scenarios that they're going to give and all those things, which definitely helped, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into my EOC, especially for private, was pretty good. I was feeling pretty good actually. Again, my instructor kept me prepared. But for the ground actually was not bad considering everything that had happened.
Yeah.
And then the flight, I had never been worried about a flight. I haven't failed a flight stage check. So
Okay.
the flight wasn't, I wasn't worried about the flight. That was no big
By
deal.
the time you got back to it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. So it sounds like it went well,
Yeah.
and I think what you said. By that point you had just about more private flight training than most people who are
Yeah.
going into their EOC
Yeah.
or their stage check.
And all flight hours are good flight hours. So
Mm.
94 private or 96, whatever it was, 98, still, hours are hours.
You know, that's a good way to put it because I think it's really easy to, and maybe this is a little off track, but what's the point of being like, I got my private done in 60 versus 90 in the long run, right?
Sure.
Because if anything, more hours are gonna speak to your aptitude or your skill more than getting it done quickly, I guess. In my opinion, I think the experience can. But when you're speaking about so little hours, it really doesn't really make a difference if you got it done faster, unless you're just
I agree.
struggling.
Yeah,
So
I think it's cool for some people to say, I got through this in minimums. I'm a good pilot. I was able to do it quickly, yada yada. Understandable. Good for you. And while I have access to a plane, I'm going to fly it as often as possible. So I don't have to go rent it myself. I can just, yeah, I went over my hours. I just got to add to my loan. Just drop in the bucket. And hey, I'm here. I'm sitting CFI. I've got 240 hours.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's easy. It's easier, really, as you said even earlier. It's easy to get caught up in oh, so and so is moving so quickly and they've done it in so many hours, and I'm like, like this many.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
100%. Yeah. And I guess one thing I'd like to bring up here is you mentioned like how it adds a little bit to your loan, and yours you didn't take out the full loan. You mentioned right because
I
you
did.
oh
I
you
did.
did, but
Yeah,
you didn't
yeah.
have to do the stipend.
Correct. For
Okay.
a little bit. So I'd been able to save up 6 months to live off of, and then I knew I'd have to go back because who knows how long the program's going to take because of weather and everything going on,
Right.
and check ride waits, all that fun stuff. So um, I didn't have to take out a stipend for 6 months, and then after that I did call Sally back, and so I'm living off the loan now,
Okay.
and until I finish, and then
A lot
towards
of people don't know that's an option. I didn't at first.
yeah, I
So
mean, I didn't quite either, but I just kind of asked them, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean,
we can
we'll
work.
give you more money.
Yeah.
Just yeah,
You're already
yeah,
there.
yeah. If you want some money, we'll give you some money.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just a bigger number,
No,
but
I guess the reason I ask is because I don't know how much you looked into this sort of thing. How much did you understand how the way you're charged for your flight training worked before you chose your school, before you chose to start? Because I know some flight schools will base how much your tuition for your flight training will be off of a certain number of hours per rating. And then if you don't get your certificate in this certain number of hours and you start flying more, you technically owe more money. Kind of like you said a moment ago, right? The average is around 60 for a private pilot here at Thrust Flight, even though we can get it done legally in like as little as I think
35.
35. Yeah,
Hmm.
okay. We know that the average is around 60. So we don't plan to get you done in 35. We plan for about 60.
Sure.
But then you say even then you kind of went over what the plan was. Um, did you have an overage? Do you understand? Are you how does that work?
Yeah, so I think they come out of the gate and say, minimum for especially for private.
Hmm.
I think in the later ratings, I don't know if I was necessarily told, what minimums and what you pay for.
Hmm.
Um, but as far
And we
as
know a lot of people don't know that, so that's why you built it in.
sure,
But yeah,
it's fair, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I do know that if you I mean, even my instructor was like, you're coming up on your hours. So instructors are very communicative on that aspect
Hmm.
of you're coming up on like 50 hours. You typically pay for 60,
Right.
and all of that. So when I started to go over, whenever you sign up at Thrust, they charge you an extra 10,000, which is like your multi-time building time, or
Hmm.
it's kind of like your overage, your safety net.
Okay.
So as I was going over, I was pulling from that 10,000. So I would have to replenish that if I wanted my full like multi-time or something along those lines. And if I didn't use all of that 10,000 for any overages throughout any rating,
Right.
I would get it back. So I knew that, and they were very, very um, transparent on that aspect. Where we charge you this, that way we're not coming to you throughout the rating and saying, hey, we need
More
we
money.
need $1,244 for your overage from your last rating. So they just pulled it from the 10,000.
Okay, so and I guess that's what I wanted to highlight, and I'm glad that you were able to understand that. I'm curious about how we do, and maybe there's I don't know if there's need for improvement here, but I'm curious about what it's like on the student side, right? Because I understand how that works, but as a student, how do you come to understand how that works? Are you talking with Irma a lot, or is it dispatch? When you're having to go over those hours and pull from some of that overage, is there conversations being had?
Yeah, yeah. I think after every rating, I get an email saying, here's your I think rating snapshot is what it is, and
Okay.
it goes over how many hours I used, what was minimums, how much I then owe, or they took out of my 10,000 extra. And yeah, so Irma is also really transparent. She's really helpful.
Hmm.
Dispatch is great. Those guys are great. I can
Yeah.
go to them and ask them any question. One thing I will say that most people highlight the minimums of whatever it is. So, for CFI, I know minimums are 25 hours, which is
Yeah.
what I ended up doing. I think I went to into my EOC with 25.1, which is great.
Sweet.
And I think that we initially paid for like 27. So
Hmm.
I tried to get in a refresher 2-hour flight to kind of get in those hours that I initially paid for. But I think the day didn't work out. It was too windy. It would have been a bad flight, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think the minimum aspect is really focused as far as what are the minimum hours that we pay for.
Okay, cool. I just like to ask. I know those are like a little bit more technical on paper back end questions.
Yeah,
But I've been trying to be a little more transparent about those things because when I'm going into something, that's the kind of stuff I want to know. I want to know how the it works because I don't want to. I have a hard time trusting institutions or big companies or something like that, as
fair.
I think a lot of people do, especially in aviation. Aviation's like, no, we should do Part 61 and stuff, and I think that works great for many people. But you chose, for example, something like a Part 141. Did you ever consider a different sort of training approach?
Yeah, yeah. So before I made the decision
Hmm.
to sign all that paperwork, I made a post on Reddit, funny enough, asking people's opinions and all those things.
Reddit's a
And
fun place.
Reddit is an interesting place.
Yeah.
And most of the people advised me not to go into debt for it. And everyone was like, dude, you have a high paying job, go to a Part 61, get your private, fly on the weekends and stuff like that,
Hmm.
which is valid. That would work for some people. And yeah, I could have done that if I wanted to get my private in a year.
Hmm.
So I very much am like a jump in the deep end and do it kind of person.
Same.
So
Hmm.
I would have much rather, yeah, take out the loan. And I had good credit at the time because I had a high paying job, so I got a relatively low rate. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
thank you, Sally.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Well done. Well done.
um, but yeah, I was also able to save up a good amount, so my loan isn't necessarily as large as others,
Yeah.
something along and stuff along those lines. So, um, I don't think Part 61 would have worked for me, given what I wanted to do, because I want to be an airline pilot. I don't want
Right.
to be some banner tower who might want to get my private over the course of
Yes.
6 months or something along those lines.
Right.
I want to get it done, and I want to get in and get out, and
Right.
that's kind of why I wanted the 141, is the accelerated nature.
I think this decision making process is a big one, especially this one. And I think that I'm that way. I'll get in the weeds a little bit about things. I'll read every resource. I'll talk to every AI there is. I'll read all the forums. I'll find groups and stuff like that. I want to understand as best as I can going into it because I don't want to regret not knowing something later. But no matter how much you do that, there's always going to be you're always gonna have to figure stuff out later.
Correct.
So you can only have so many ducks in a row. So I say all that to say, when you're on Reddit and you're like asking questions and things like that, um, I think to go against what you feel like you see the most is the most interesting part there. Do you feel like the people who were advising you to go into Part 61 and use your well-paying job to pay for it understood that you wanted to go faster, that you're a deep end kind of person, that you're career focused?
Probably not. I think that um, I guess in that aspect they only had the information that I gave them.
Of course.
So they might have, misread something, or I might have not given like the full picture, whereas, I have all the information.
Yeah.
So, um,
And were
do
they pilot? Do you think most of them were pilots or?
so that I've thought about this after the fact. I would imagine most of them are probably Part 61 instructors, which is the funny part.
Uh,
So they're just like, oh yeah, don't do Part 141. It's so hard to instruct for those guys. Come to some 61 school out in the middle of nowhere and yada
okay.
yada. But with that being said, not really listening to the advice, it's really easy to get caught up in the excitement of something new.
Okay.
So I kind of was mainly just um, putting that post out there to kind of gauge what people are doing.
Yeah.
Maybe get a couple of people that are doing the same thing, because
Mhm.
this definitely isn't for everybody.
Right.
If you're some anxious person that um, and you have a lot of self doubt and all this, and you don't think you're going to make it and all of this is going to be a little bit harder for you, because you have to advocate for yourself. You have to be able to communicate with dispatch and Irma and
Mm,
even Patrick sometimes along certain things. And it's
mm.
no, and I was in the corporate world for 7 years. The CEO, they put their pants on just like you in the morning,
Yeah.
So there's no need to be scared of anybody. But as far as ignoring
Interesting.
advice goes,
Mhm.
my girlfriend's dad, the Southwest pilot, he actually advised me to do some training out of Denton. He said look out of Denton, which I thought was interesting, because he was like, you don't have to go up and drone out for 20 to 30 minutes of flight. You can just go up and do laps in the pattern, or 5-minute flight to an untired airport, and
Yes.
you get more value out of your training, as far as your hours go. But Addison's pretty unique because of the busyness of the airspace.
Yes.
So, like, I've talked to some people who got their private somewhere else and they've joined thrust and instrument or commercial or even CFI,
Mm-hmm.
and they are terrified of talking to Lone Star Approach. And they're just people on the other side of the radio, but you just got to be quick and concise, otherwise they'll yell at you.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the part I would be so nervous about. Really being able to communicate across the headset. I have so many things that I wanted to go into just now with you, but I'll probably I'll leave that decision part alone because I just think it's interesting that you were able to just realize that, okay, look, here's how I am, here's how I know how to be, and I'm gonna make a decision to go to the airlines as efficiently as possible. And I think a lot of people start with Part 61, and they learn that what they learn is that they love flying so much that they don't want to stop, but that it is really difficult, but they like it so much they'd rather just do it full time. I think a lot of times it's just a good stepping stone for a lot of people who want to be career focused.
Fair.
And so I think you painted the picture correctly, that you just knew that you wanted to do that. Now, just now you were talking about the airspace, so I want to ask you about the airspace, and there was one part about that. Oh, the head. I'm gonna end up asking about headsets. We're getting newer students are gonna get newer headsets,
That is true.
and so I'll ask you about that a little bit in a
Lucky
second.
ducks.
Lucky Ducks, really, we're about to make an announcement on that. Actually, I'll talk about it here in a second. But first, I want to ask you about adapting to the airspace in your flight training. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got better over time? I'm assuming that you did, talking to ATC.
Sure.
And describe our airspace for someone who doesn't even really understand what I'm saying.
Okay, sure. So the Addison Airport lives right underneath we're in a delta. We live right under a Bravo shelf in one of the busiest airspace in the country for the DFW area. So within about a 10-mile radius, we have DFW Airport and Love Field, and then ourselves, and then a couple of other busier, smaller executive airports. So,
Which are some of the largest DFW is one of the largest airports in the country, right?
yes.
Yeah. So I mean, people, just to put a little context there, there's three of them.
Yeah, you've got
Yeah.
you've got a major hub for American Airlines, and then you have Love Field, which is almost only Southwest, and they're also a major hub there too. So
Yes.
very, very busy airspace, and we have to talk to them anytime we come back into Addison or are leaving on some flight plan or something along those lines. So radio can be very congested. Talking about how I improved on my radio. I actually was one of the few people who was really good on the radio to begin with. My flying was not that great. Radio was, I just understood the radio. You know, it's a matter of who you are, who you're talking to, what you want to do, and where you are is basically the four aspects that you typically always start with when talking to the radio to anybody. So I understood that from the very beginning, and I enjoyed it so much. I would listen to live ATC all the time, and even on like my first flights where I was getting motion sick, I would let my instructor fly us back, so I wasn't feeling great, but I would still take the radio calls just because I enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I wasn't necessarily flying; I was struggling, but it was a fun thing to do. So that was one thing that my private instructor gave me a little bit of praise on, for just understanding the radio just earlier, because that kind of goes into my, I would say, my corporate experience of they're just people, you know, and just last thing you want to do is hold up the frequency.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of great things there. Can you say one more time who you are, where you are? So that's that feels like a tip of how to kind of break down what you need to communicate on ATC. Can you say it for me one more time?
Sure. Yeah. So you basically want to say who you are, or sorry, who are you talking to, who you are, where you are, and what you want to do. Those are mainly the four aspects in most initial radio calls.
Okay, I like that because I haven't heard someone break it down quite like that, but that makes a lot of sense to me. And I've been working this job now for about 2.5 years, and I'm on the corporate side of things at this point. Maybe not the most standard corporate job there is, so I do a lot of different kinds of work, but I knew that was going to be a skill I was going to grow in, was my ability to communicate with team and higher up in a way that was effective. And I think when you say that you could see how that skill translated from your corporate experience into radio calls, I could see how that would make sense. Yeah, I guess I wish I could ask you to expand on it, but I guess it's pretty like it's pretty. What I'm saying is pretty obvious. But on that note, is there anything else from your experience, because you said, you're a career changer. You say you see yourself as someone who's kind of did it a little bit later at a little bit older age. Can you tell me a little bit about how your experiences in life or work before starting flight training probably benefited you now rather than if you did it like when you were 20 or 18 or something?
Sure. Um, how have they benefited now? Yeah, so I'm 28
Yes.
now, so not necessarily on the too older of a side, but
Right.
definitely not 18 coming into this.
I guess if I were to rephrase the question to make it a little easier, what do you imagine it would have been like if you started at 18?
Sure.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of where I was at 18.
Yeah.
I
Because
don't
you
even
go into
remember.
college did you go straight into college at 18?
No, I took a year off, so I went to college at 19.
Okay.
Um, how would it be different now, or how would it be different then versus now? I would say now I understand how I learn,
Mm.
which is kind of one of the most important things I would say. So
Mhm.
going into private, meeting with my instructor for the first time,
Mhm.
knowing how I learn was probably my most valuable thing because some of my classmates on the younger side were kind of struggling with their instructor communicating to them all these things.
Mhm.
But if I would go up in the plane and my instructor would kind of talk through things and being able to advocate for myself.
Right.
He would kind of talk through things and he's like, "Does that understand?" And having the willingness to say no, to
Mhm.
explain it better or in a different way, and me being, "Could you explain it this way to me?" Or can you show me the maneuver that you're trying to do and talk me through it? And then my ability to replicate it, because I'm also a constructive criticism type of person where
Yeah.
if I do something wrong, critique me right then, and then I'll remember it.
Right.
And which is why I think I'm gonna drill this back into myself because it's a bit of a cold sore for me. My failing my private stage checks on the ground,
Yeah.
those critiques were really valuable
Yeah.
because yeah, I kind of got most of the way there, but those, hey, you failed for this reason, I haven't forgotten that. So it's the knowing how I learn and knowing how
Mhm.
I operate, and also being able to kind of counteract that. For I might be want to be a little lazy today. I should go up to the school and study.
Yes, gotcha. You understand some of those parts of yourself. I can only imagine doing something this difficult when I was about 18. I mean, I had the grit for it, maybe, right? But there was so much understanding of myself that I didn't really have. And I don't really like to talk about age that way because everyone's so different at different ages.
Agreed.
But when talking to people here on the podcast, um, often I've talked to people who have came straight out of college. Instead of going, they went to college and then they came here. And I can only imagine what it's like going from college to another learning situation because I wasn't a great student. But then you talk to people who were even younger, maybe didn't finish college or didn't go to college, and then you see how they mature through our program. That experience you went through from private to like now, and how you can understand how it's a lifestyle change. um, I feel like a lot of people go through that, and I guess I just think it's interesting that people feel like they're late or it's too late, and I feel like it's really just the right time sometimes.
I agree,
So
and it's easy to want to rush through it. Be like,
yes,
"Oh, I'm already this old. I wanna get out there." But I mean, there are older people and there are younger people, and it's just everyone's on their own journey. So I
yeah.
think trying to rush through it is only shooting yourself in the foot.
Exactly. And we've been talking about it. You guys have such a great culture going on over there. For a long time, I've been saying we, but I kind of like saying you guys because y'all did it. I mean, I don't think a corporate side of a company can institute really good culture into a student population or like the instructor population. So can you tell me a little bit about people who you interact with on a day-to-day basis in your flight training?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, we've got all variety of people over in the hangar
Mhm.
and throughout the school. The more often you're up there, the more often you'll meet all
Yeah.
of them. We definitely have the people that like to show off their knowledge. We have the people that like to help anyone that needs it, and we have
Hmm.
the people that just kind of hang around and join in conversations whenever they hear something they want to talk about.
Hmm.
So we've got all types of people there.
Yeah.
I myself tutor right now. I think I've got 5 or 6 people I'm tutoring right now,
Okay.
just throughout private and commercial,
Sweet.
which is just kind of goes into the culture aspect of people that know a little bit more and um, helping the people still in their training
Yeah.
and um, doing so effectively. I
Yeah.
know we had an issue a little bit with just tutoring to stage check answers, which is
Mhm.
not teaching knowledge. So
Yeah.
the teaching knowledge is pretty important for understanding for all reasons and
Like comprehending rather than just rogue more memorization, right?
exactly.
Okay, gotcha. And even for you, it sounds like that kicked in at some point. You're like, I need to understand what I'm
Yeah.
talking, what I'm looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I kind of was meeting with some people throughout private, and I was like, man, what does this mean? And they were like, oh, well, it means that. And then I would give that answer on a stage check, and then the stage checker says, well, why is that? And I'm like, oh no, like, oh, I don't know.
That's the worst,
So
man.
yeah, but now I do, which is nice.
Yeah.
But and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But I definitely carry those experiences to help others that I'm teaching and tutoring,
Yeah.
and I know others do that as well,
Yeah.
which is really beneficial because like my first DPE check ride for commercial
Yeah.
was a breeze. It
Wow,
it
that's
was so easy, and I was so worried, and it just goes to show how hard the stage checks and EOCs are here.
yeah.
Just because, and the stage checks can be brutal, but depending who you get as a stage checker,
Hmm.
um, most of them are brutal, and it's the aspect of they really want you to see who you know to cover A through Z, even though you might get asked A through F.
Right. Yeah. And uh, I just want to clarify for anyone who's listening or watching. We talk about stage checks, EOCs, and check rides. And I'd like to draw a distinction between them because if you're not a flight student, or if you're currently a flight student at something like a Part 61 school, then you may not understand what we're talking about, because this is a curriculum structured based thing. So number one, Thrust Flight has examining authority, which means we've partnered with the FAA to have them, give us really strict guidelines on how much our students need to succeed, or at the rate at which they need to succeed, so that we can maintain our examining authority status, which allows us to do in-house check rides, which we call EOCs, which is an end of course. It's a lot of letters
It is a lot of
that I'm
letters.
talking about right now. But the idea is that you don't have to wait on a third party in order to pass your final exam for every certificate you get as a pilot, which gives you less roadblocks, less bureaucracy, as long as we maintain a certain level of quality as a program. That's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying a lot of words, but I want you to understand that the reason that we are able to do that is because we have the curriculum with stage checks. So each rating, correct me if I'm wrong, each rating, you go into your private, you're going to do a stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. These are kind of like the quizzes before you go into your final exam. That's how your instructor says, okay, you're ready for your final exam. When I say final exam, this is going to be your EOC, where you get to fly with someone who's qualified to say, yes, you can have your certificate.
Hmm.
And we don't have to wait on a third party to do that. Uh, if you're in a Part 61, you might be handed, or even some Part 141s, you might just be handed some books and go on some flights and then say, okay, go take your check ride. Um, for you, for example, that would have felt maybe devastating, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got the benefit. You really got the benefit from the curriculum, from what it sounds like.
Hmm.
And then you go to commercial, and you pass, and you almost had to fly more just to meet the minimum hours.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not just a money grab. It's something that adds a lot of value for people who could utilize it.
I'd say it's an ease of access thing as well, because
Yes.
especially for private and instrument, having those instructors who are checked out by the FAA to do EOC.
Hmm.
And my check ride wait for private and instrument check ride
Yeah.
EOC wait was maybe a week or two, and if that. And especially for CFI,
Wow.
which can be a longer one, because
Hmm.
not a lot of DPs want to do CFI.
Hmm.
That's what I've been told.
Yes.
My wait time from CFI only has 2 stage checks. My wait time from stage 2 to EOC was, I think, a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And I guess I just always want to try to drill that home, and I don't know how it sounds to people who aren't already in the thick of it. If you're already someone who's waiting for long check rides, you can understand the value of what we're saying. If you're someone who's thinking about starting flight training, and you're like, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Maybe, you know.
And to put that into perspective, for my commercial, I had to wait, and I was on the quicker wait times. I waited for a month and a week, so 5 weeks from the end of my stage 3 in commercial to my check ride with an external DPE.
Right.
There are some people that wait 2 months or 3 months,
Yes.
and it's hard to stay proficient during that time. If you slack at all, all knowledge is important to keep up on.
And I appreciate you for pointing that out because the commercial rating specifically is one that we don't have examining authority for, but mainly because it's almost just better to we have what we call an accelerated commercial rating, which is still through the FAA, but that means we still rely on DPEs,
Mm-hmm.
which is why you had to wait so long for
Yeah.
a commercial. So that's kind of like a taste of what it would be like if every rating had to wait on a DPE. It could add 2 months onto every rating.
Correct.
So that's
commercial and double I are the wait times that most people try to get through the course quickly to wait for your check ride.
Yeah, so I think that it's kind of cool that you guys get and still get to experience what it's like to go with the DB. So you get to maybe feel the value of paying the extra buck
Sure.
for the EOC and examining authority is how I look at it.
It has its benefit.
Yeah, it has its benefit. That might have been the longest spiel I've ever gone on the podcast. Usually I try not to do too much talking.
Yeah.
So,
And one thing too is like if for some reason that you do your ground and you need to postpone your flight, having the internal EOC, that dispatch can schedule it the next day.
wow, you just push it back a day instead of 2 months.
Yep. Yeah, or you don't have to wait for the DPE or something along those lines. So the flexibility also is a really big thing.
That's really cool. It seems like we've actually worked out these systems quite a bit. You know, Patrick is our CEO. Patrick is really serious about quality.
Understandably.
Yeah, I mean, we have new. It just sounds like a sales pitch at this point. We have the new Piper Archers, right? None of them are older than 23.
They're
mean,
nice.
Yeah, we all get the Nike Dry Fit shirts or something. Are those Nike too?
This I don't think is.
I don't know if they are. Okay, well,
the instructors get the new Nike ones.
Yeah, well, when you're an instructor, you get a new Nike Dry Fit. I have quite a few, but we're serious about the quality, though. I mean, we have a lot of systems in place, and they're not cheap. We have IT people designing the programs. We have the LMS now, and
the LMS is great. It's a good resource.
And we built that all in house. You know, like even it's all built in house. Even the videos. Now we're in the middle of the transition with it, but now integrated into the LMS will be our scheduling system. So there's like a lot to go into all of that. And I guess I just say that to say we really care about how good the curriculum works out. So you said your girlfriend, you don't imagine her watching this, do you?
She might. Who knows?
Well, you we can cut this out if you want, but you said hopefully your fiance soon. Is she aware of that?
Yeah. We have So I've made the first payment on a ring. She designed it. She doesn't know when or if it's in yet or when that might happen, but she designed the ring and I've made one of two payments on it.
Man, that's pretty exciting, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people about that kind of thing. There's a couple people who sat in that chair that had just got engaged or married or just had a kid and then chose to do flight training. Changed their whole life up. And I think that's the most interesting thing for someone to make those kind of choices. So look, we've been talking for a minute. I could probably talk to you for a long time.
Sure.
But I want to ask you a few questions before we go that kind of wrap some of this up and kind of help people get the most out of our conversation. So when you look back at your flight training so far, because you said you just got your CFI, right?
Right.
Are you working on CFII? Or did you get that as well?
Yeah, so that is my next rating. I haven't gotten put in the program yet, but within the next couple of days.
Okay, well, you've gone through the bulk of your training. When you look back at it, can you tell me what was maybe some of the most rewarding part of it? I guess that's kind of a broad question, but you go through difficult moments, you learn new things, and I'm wondering what you could like look back and be like, that was really great.
I would say probably the most rewarding thing that I've experienced, especially as of recently since being in CFI, would be passing on knowledge to someone else that I struggled with. So like being able to explain forward versus aft CG, or how to make a nav log or something along those lines, or systems in general just for our planes because they're quite complex.
Yeah.
Or even just aerodynamics. Being able to, because I struggled with almost all of those things. I feel like as most people do, especially in private, it's a lot of information. Being able to meet with someone and see their confusion and help them realize or help them understand
Yeah.
is probably the most valuable thing.
That's awesome. I look at aviation kind of like people who are maybe like a music nerd or like games, or if you're like really an anime or something,
Hmm.
you could sit there and go back and forth with someone. You love to just do the back and forth yapping.
Yeah.
Aviation is one of those things.
Yeah.
You get to talk about it in depth. It's really fun.
Hmm.
I can imagine. I only get to go so in depth with you guys. I'm not a pilot.
Sure.
So okay, and then another question I would have is, we've talked a lot about like being a student. Can you tell me a little bit about your favorite part of the flying the plane, or the curriculum, like topic wise, concept? Is there something that you really enjoy about general aviation so far that you just really like talking about, or you like doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
This might come as obvious, but I really like talking on the radio.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just a fun thing to do to me for me. Like if
Yeah.
we go to Untowered Airport, I look forward to making the 10, 5, 3 mile radio call, and it's like just hearing other people on the radio. Now it is kind of funny hearing schools like American Flyers
Yeah.
who to struggle on the radio.
Mhm.
And I don't know how their instructors teach it or whatever, but you can always hear Flyers on the radio.
Yeah.
So I like teaching that aspect as well. Like, playing, doing a little role play with people. Me being ATC and then being in the plane. My favorite part about flying is I mean, just flying in general, dude.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like anytime we get to go up, it's just fun.
It's not one. It's never one of those things where you're like, oh, man, I don't know. I have to go up and fly in a minute.
That's true.
It,
If we flew in planes without AC, I'd understand. But you just flip that AC switch and no need to worry.
it's always a pleasure. It
And
seems like,
it is, yeah.
and that's really cool. And contrast. Okay, and then I'll maybe let's wrap it up with this. You've been living this lifestyle for nearly a year now. It
Close
seems
to it,
like,
yeah.
getting close to it.
Mm.
In contrast to how you were living before, you said man, I really wasn't excited about going to work. Can you give me that picture now to kind of in retrospect?
Yeah, dude, I enjoy waking up in the morning. It's
Yeah.
like I used to be a morning person a while back, and then I just didn't really look forward to waking up in the morning as far as going to work and driving to work and doing my IT thing and whatever it was. And now it's like, I mean, I was excited to wake up at 8:30 to do a podcast. So it's like anything now is like just incorporated in. It's
Yeah.
like I started with, planning out your sleep and your food and all those things. Your physiological needs are really important.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I got to be up at 8:30. Got to be in bed by 9:30.
Yeah.
So it's the planning aspect.
Eh, and I'm gonna ask one follow up question then.
Sure.
When you were working, your 9 to 5, um, did you not wonder if it was just a matter of your own motivation or something you were doing in order to make you feel more fulfilled there?
Sure.
Like, how did you navigate it while you were there before you decided that, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and make a change?
I understand. So my most recent corporate job was probably my least favorite of the two that I had.
Okay.
The one that I started with right out of college was a great company,
Mhm.
and I left them for more money,
Okay.
and they got their money's worth in my soul. So
Yeah. Well, some people
uh,
would say, "Oh, he's just 9 to 5."
that is true. No, they
Because it's easy to gaslight yourself, is what I'm trying to say.
this is true. This
So
this is true.
yeah.
I'm trying to think about if I could have made a change to make me happier, and I don't think so. As far as the work that they had me do, I felt it was difficult to feel fulfilled,
Mhm.
which is what I struggled with. Because I felt like me going up to the office in Irving and logging laptops and we just terminated an employee. That sucks. Okay, I'll get their laptop back, and we're hiring someone to replace them. I'll send it out to them. It's
Yeah.
like it's not fun,
Yeah.
and it was hard to motivate to want to do that every day. But like this is like, oh, I'm tutoring someone at 8:30. I'm not getting paid, and I'm waking up early, and I'm getting to the school early, and
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna meet with them for 2 hours, and oh no, it's been 4.5. Okay,
Yeah.
good luck on your ERC tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
I guess I think it's interesting to be like, man, the difference that you kind of desired to have, you did get.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's something you can always understand before you make the decision.
I agree.
And I guess I'm always interested in trying to figure out how to define it. But the truth is that, I mean, you did make the change to feel a little bit more fulfilled. It just happened to be not while staying at that other job.
That is true. That
So
is true. I'm definitely feeling it now, which is nice.
yeah, it's cool. And I'm not saying everything's all perfect or anything like that, but it's cool to know that you like what you're doing. So
Thrust is the way to go.
that's awesome. Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I like thrust program is pretty great, pretty streamlined, makes things easy. So
Awesome,
just show
awesome.
up when they tell you to and
Yeah.
do the stage checks.
Yeah,
Study.
I didn't pay him to say that. In fact, he's paying to say
I'm
it.
paying to
Maybe
be
if anything.
here.
Yeah, he paid to be here. So thank you, Matthew, for joining us
Of course.
on this episode of Pilots Say What, where we get to hear what pilots have to say. And today we got to talk to Matthew, and my name is Zach. I'm here every week. And if you guys have any questions, then please leave them in the comment section. We'll make sure we get those over to Matthew if we need to. If you have any for him, that'd be great. If you're still listening, I'm assuming you enjoyed the episode enough to still be here, and I think those like, comments, and subscribes will really help other people find this podcast as well. And if you're ever interested in checking out our school, of course, Google Thrust Flight and come check us out. You could walk in or you can give us a call. If you're not anywhere near a thrust flight, but you're still really interested in flight training, just Google flight school near me, Google Discovery Flight near me, or go watch some planes, go talk to someone, just interact with a human in real life, and I feel like it might cause a next step to occur. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Make the change.
Yeah,
Don't be afraid.
And again, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.